Hey, sixth graders, you are starting lesson 4, day 1. And this is kind of exploring with what we've already learned and connecting it to what we are doing. So let's start by going over on page 26. If you're not on page 26, pause the video and open your book to that page now. Also, remember the rules as you're watching a video. Follow the directions. So if I say pause the video and do a problem, make sure you do that. If I say you can write any answer you want, that's fine too. So let's start on page 26. It says, in lesson 3, you learn to use tables to work with equivalent ratios. Take a look at this problem. So I'm going to read this one right here. It says, Carolee paints magnets that she sells at craft fairs. She can paint 12 magnets in 4 hours. At this rate, how many magnets can she paint in 2 hours and in 10 hours? So we are going to use this ratio to answer those two questions. Now, here is your job. Your job is to do A through E on your own. So you're going to pause the video, work on these 5 problems. Now, a couple things. Oh, Jack's sniffing the iPad, so you may hear him sniffing. That's my dog, Jack. A couple of things you can do. 1, if you don't know the answer, that's okay. Give it your best shot. 2, if you're not sure, so what? We'll go over it and we'll make sure you understand it. And 3, if it says explain or fill something out, make sure you write a sentence or 2. All right, pause the video, do A through E. Restart it when you're done. Go. All right, let's see how you did. So first off, remember our ratio 12 magnets in 4 hours. They give us both of those numbers right here. 12 magnets in 4 hours. So that's the only one where they give us both numbers. All right, so A says, what is the ratio of magnets to hours? Well, it's going to be those numbers, and it was up in the problem right here. So it's going to be 12 magnets for every 4 hours, or 12 to 4. And you could write that any one of the ways that you know. B, what ratio do you get if you double the number of magnets in hours? Write your answer in the table. So if you double it, that just means times 2. So let's start with 4 times 2. So 4 times 2 is 8, right? So that means 12 times 2 is 24. So you should have 24 in that box right there. So our ratio is 24 to 8. All right, remember, if you had made any mistakes, pause the video and fix them. C, how long would it take to paint 6 magnets? How do you know? So let's go up and find 6 magnets, which is right here. So basically, we need to figure out what goes in that box. Now, let's see a good way to do that. I know to go from 12 to 6 that we divide by 2. Or in other words, isn't 6 half of 12? So my question is, what number that will go here is half of 4? And I know 2 is half of 4. So that means, how long would it take to paint 6 magnets? How do you know? All right, so let me write my answer. So first off, my answer is 2 hours. I'm going to put a semicolon. So I'm just going to say, if it takes 4 hours to paint 12 magnets, remember, that's my ratio, 12 to 4. You just divide by 2. Oops, sorry about that. Divide both numbers by 2. Because remember, isn't that what I did? I took the 12 and the 4 and divided by 2 to get the 6 and the 2. Now, you do not need to have my exact words, but as long as you explained, if you had the answer, the answer was 2 hours and you explained it, you should be fine for that one. All right, D says, you know how long it takes to paint 24 magnets and 6 magnets. How can you use that information to calculate how long it takes her to paint 30 magnets? And then down here it says fill in the table with this ratio. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out what number goes right here. And then I'm just going to explain how I did that. So I know, let me look up at the 30. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Let me erase some of my junk here to make it a little cleaner. Did you notice that 24 divided by 3 is 8? 12 divided by 3 is 4. 6 divided by 3 is 2. That means if I divide 30 by 3, I should get 10 hours for 30 magnets. So now I'm going to go down and I'm going to answer the question. It says, how can you use that information to calculate how long it takes her to paint 30 magnets? So I'm just going to write, if you divide the magnets by 3, you get the hours. So 30 divided by 3 equals 10 hours. So all I did was explain up here that I divide by 3. So if I took 30 divided by 3, I get 10 hours. Remember, you don't need my exact words, but you should be saying something about how, if you had 10 hours for your answer, you're right, and just as long as you explain how you got that. And last, E. Explain how you can use the information in the table to find out how many magnets she can paint in 1 hour. Now, by now, most of the table is filled out, and you could get the answer in many different ways. So, let me just show you a couple. One is, if you notice the number of hours, times 3 gives you the number of magnets. 8 times 3 is 24. 4 times 3 is 12. 2 times 3 is 6. And 1 times 3 will be 3. So I know my answer is 3. Another possible way, though, is maybe you're like, well, if it takes 2 hours to do 6 magnets, if I just divide that, each of those numbers by 2, I'll get 3 hours for 1 magnet. So there's lots of different ways that you can actually get your answer. So I'm going to go with, I know if you multiply the hours by 3, you'll get your answer. So 1 times 3 is 3. So let me answer that question. I'm just going to say that. I know you multiply the hours by 3 to get the magnets. So 1 hour times 3 equals 3 magnets, which is the answer that I filled in the table. Now remember, you don't need those exact words. I'm just explaining how I got the answer. All right, so if you got stuck or made any mistakes, now's your chance to pause the video and make your corrections. If you're doing okay, we're going to go on to page 27. Now on page 27, we're going to take what you knew with the ratio tables and we're going to show you a different way that you can find equivalent ratios. So just follow along with me here. You don't have to write too much yet unless you want to take notes. So this says, a table is one way to show the relationship between the number of magnets and the time it takes to paint them. A double number line also shows the relationship. So remember, you're going to see some of the same ratios. Remember, the original ratio was 4 hours for 12 magnets, right? So you'll see some other ratios. 1 hour for 3 magnets, 2 hours for 6 magnets, 7 hours for 21 magnets. So you can see all of those on there. You can also see the relationship that you can multiply the number of hours by 3 to get the number of magnets, or you could take the number of magnets and divide by 3 to get the number of hours. So they're just some relationships that are going to help you answer these questions. All right, so now let's continue. Let me get this so you can read it all. It says, notice that the mark for 6 magnets is halfway between 0 and 12, and the line for 2 hours is halfway between 0 and 4. So let me point that out. They said, notice that the line for 6 magnets is halfway between 0 and 12. Notice 6 is right in the middle. And that 2 hours is halfway between 0 and 4, which makes sense because 2 is between 0 and 4, 6 is between 0 and 12. All right, now let's continue. It says, you can use halves again to find the rate of 3 magnets in 1 hour. So here's what they're saying. Pretend for a second, I'm going to white it out. Pretend that you don't see this 3 and this 1. Did you see I just whited them out here? So you can use halves. You could say, all right, well, what's halfway between 0 and 6? That would be 3. What's halfway between 0 and 2? Well, that would be 1. So that's all they're saying with the double number lines there. So don't read too much into it. All right, so we'll continue here. It says, once you find that the unit rate is 3, you can multiply or divide to find other equivalent ratios. This is huge. Now remember, the rate is right here because there's a 1. The unit rate, if you guys remember, is the number above the 1. So the unit rate is 3 magnets. Now, that's the number you're going to multiply or divide by to find other ratios. So let's show you what they mean. So this says, divide the number of magnets by 3 to find how long Carol Lee will take to complete them. So we can take any number of magnets. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 21 divided by 3 is 7, right? In between 6 and 12 is 9. What's 9 divided by 3? You can get 3. Okay, so once you figure that out, divide the number of magnets by 3, and you'll get the hour. Now, the other thing is, it says Carol Lee will take 10 hours to paint 30 magnets. You can also multiply the number of hours by 3 to find how many magnets she'll paint in that time. So, anywhere where you have the number of hours. Let's say here, so this is 2 and this is 4, right? So what's between 2 and 4? 3. So you just take the number of hours and multiply by the unit rate 3 to get the number of magnets. So what we want you to see is the relationship. Let me erase some of this slop. The unit rate is 3. Once you find that, you can divide this number by 3 to get the bottom number, or you can multiply the bottom number by 3 to get the top number. That's how important the unit rate is. All right, now, let's go down to reflect. Reflect says, explain and show how to use the unit rate to find the missing numbers on the double number line. So, you're going to have to explain it and show it. Now, I would actually show it and explain it first. So, for example, let me erase some of the slop again. You can go, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Well, how can you use the unit rate to get the magnets? Now, the flip is going to be this. Let me erase my slop again. If you notice that the magnets are counting by 3s, 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. How could you then use that unit rate, 3 again, to get the number of hours? So that's the question they're asking you to reflect about. Now I'm going to erase all that. Okay, so first off, go up and show, get your answer in your double number line at the top of the page. I know I did it, but I erased it. I want you to do it on your own. And then I want you to explain, you could probably get this done in 2 to 3 sentences, how you use that unit rate. Remember, the unit rate was 3 to find the missing numbers. All right, so pause the video, Write 2 to 3 sentences in your reflection. Restart it when you're done. Go. All right, so let's see how you did. Now remember the 2 things I showed you. If you have the number of hours, you multiply by 3 to get the number of magnets. If you have the number of magnets, you divide by 3 to get the number of hours. So you should have these numbers. If you messed up these numbers, make sure they're correct. Now I'm just going to explain that. So I'm going to say that, let me get this set up. I'm going to say the unit rate is 3. You can multiply the number of magnets. Oops, sorry. Not the number of magnets. You can multiply the number of hours by 3 to get the magnets. Okay. Or you can divide the number of magnets by 3 to get the hours. Now, you, as you know, don't need to have my exact words, but we want you to just see, if you know the unit rate is 3, how you can multiply by 3 or divide by 3 to find some of the numbers. All right, so you know you can pause this video to write anything down. You can rewind it to go back and make any corrections. But other than that, you are done with this video. Thanks for watching, guys.